Everything changed the moment I picked up that call. One sentence. One stranger's voice. One crack in the world I thought was solid. He didn't introduce himself, didn't hesitate, didn't soften anything. He just said, "I think you should know who your wife is with right now. If you're listening to this, hit subscribe so you don't miss what happened next." Because from the moment I heard those words, nothing in my life looked the same again. I asked him who he was, but he ignored the question and went straight into describing a car. A silver Lexus, with a dent on the left rear panel and a charity sticker on the bumper. I knew that car. I'd seen it in our neighborhood a few times, usually parked too close to our driveway. But something in the man's tone made my pulse hammer. It wasn't curiosity. It was warning. He told me exactly where that car was parked at that moment. Front house on Oak Ridge Lane. Passenger seat. Blonde woman. Ring on her finger. My stomach went tight, like someone reached in and twisted it. Oak Ridge Lane is where we live. I asked again who he was. He paused. Then he said, slower this time, "I don't want anything from you, but you deserve to know who she's spending her Saturday with." The line went dead. No goodbye. No click. Nothing. Just silence. Felt like someone dropped a brick into my chest. I stood there in the kitchen, phone in my hand, looking at the tiles like they suddenly became unfamiliar. My wife, Claire, was upstairs folding laundry. She called down, asking who it was. I didn't answer. I walked to the front window. My hands were shaking in a way I hadn't felt since high school when I crashed my first car. I pulled the curtain back an inch, and there it was. The silver Lexus with the dent and the sticker. Parked right across the street under our maple tree. Engine off. Windows lightly tinted but not enough to hide the silhouette in the passenger seat. Blonde hair. I couldn't make out the face, but I didn't need to. Claire had worn her hair the same way for 12 years. Loose, slightly curled at the ends, the color she called buttercream, because she felt it made her glow in photos. I watched the silhouette shift like she was talking to someone beside her. Leaning in, laughing maybe, the kind of movement people make when they think no one is watching. My throat felt dry. My mind was running, trying to make excuses for her. Maybe she was giving someone directions. Maybe she dropped something. Maybe she no. Too many maybes, not enough truth. I watched that car for almost a full minute. Not moving. Not driving away. Just sitting there with her inside it. Then I let the curtain fall back into place. And I swear the silence inside the house became louder than the street outside. I walked upstairs, calm in a way that didn't make sense even to me. Claire was still folding shirts on the bed, humming some tune from a commercial she liked. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look nervous. She didn't even look up until I stood directly in front of her. When she did, she gave me that half smile she used whenever she thought I was overthinking something. "What?" she asked. That was all she said. One word. And I felt something inside me click into place. Not anger, not heartbreak, just clarity. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain the phone call. I didn't mention the car or the man or the blonde silhouette outside. I just said, "Pack your bags." Her smile froze. She blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" But I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because I already knew what I'd show her. And once she saw it, there'd be no explanations left. Only truth. Only consequences. Only the end of pretending. She stared at me like I had spoken in a language she'd never heard. I could see the moment her brain started scanning through possibilities, searching for a reason I would say something like that on a quiet Saturday afternoon with laundry still warm from the dryer. Claire wasn't the type to panic fast. She always believed she could talk her way through anything. So she set the shirt down and crossed her arms slowly, almost rehearsed, and said, "Okay, what's going on? Did something happen at work? Did someone call you?" She tried to sound calm, but there was a thin crack in her voice, like a window opened just enough to let a cold breeze slip through. I didn't answer. I walked to the closet and pulled out her weekend bag, the navy blue one she used for girls' spa retreats, that always seemed to stretch into late-night returns and unexplained receipts. I tossed it on the bed. She watched it land and flinched like it made a sound no one else could hear. "This isn't funny," she said, a little sharper now. She took a small step toward me, but not too close. If you're mad about something, talk to me. Don't do this silent act. Silent act. Interesting choice of words. I walked past her, down the hallway, and stopped at the window again. The Lexus was still there. Same dent. Same sticker. Same silhouette in the passenger seat. And now I could see movement in the driver's seat too. Someone adjusting, leaning over slightly as if trying to see through our front window. I let the curtain fall again before Claire could follow my gaze. She reached the hallway just as I stepped away. Is that what this is? She asked. Are you jealous of some car parked outside? Is that why you're acting weird? I wasn't acting. I was observing. I was remembering all the Saturdays she said she needed time alone because work was stressful. I was remembering the nights she claimed her stomach hurt from bad takeout, when she came home pale and shaky. I was remembering the last couple months when she started guarding her phone like it contained state secrets, turning the screen away even when she was just checking the weather. And I was remembering the voice on the phone saying, I think you should know who your wife is with right now. She touched my arm then, gently, like she was trying to place a calming hand on a wild animal. Talk to me, she whispered. I stepped back. Her hand fell, and for the first time, real panic surfaced behind her eyes. She followed me into the kitchen as I picked up my keys from the counter. Are you leaving? She asked. I noticed she didn't say, are we going somewhere? Or why do I need to pack? She went straight to fear of me walking out before she had a chance to spin things. I turned to her and finally spoke. I'm not leaving, I said. But you are. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Why? What did I do? I almost laughed, not from humor but from the absurdity of the question. Instead, I asked her, where were you this morning? Her face stiffened instantly. Not anger, not confusion, calculation. I told you, she said. Hannah needed help with? Try again. I interrupted. She swallowed. Why are you interrogating me? Because someone else already told me where you were, I said quietly. And with whom? Her skin changed color. Not red, not white, but something in between, like she was losing heat from the inside out. That's ridiculous, she said, but her voice trembled. Who is feeding you lies? I didn't answer. Instead, I walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped onto the porch. The late afternoon sun was still bright, but everything felt colder than it should. Claire hovered behind me like a shadow glued to the threshold, afraid to step outside, afraid to stay inside. The Lexus across the street was still idling. I couldn't see faces clearly, but I could tell they were watching us. She followed my stare and froze. That was the moment her breathing changed. She knew. She recognized the car instantly. Her hand came up to her mouth, not in shock but in instinct, like she was trying to cover the lie before it escaped again. Why is he here? She whispered. Not that car. Not someone. She had no idea I knew anything yet. And by saying that, she told me more than the caller did. I turned to her slowly. Pack your bags, I repeated. She shook her head, tears gathering fast. Not from guilt but from the realization that the story she planned to tell just died before it ever left her lips. Please, she said. Let me explain. It's not what you think. But she had no idea what I thought. She had no idea how much I had already pieced together. And she had absolutely no idea what I was about to show her. The one thing she wouldn't be able to deny, twist, or talk her way out of. She kept whispering the same line, it's not what you think, like she believed repetition could somehow reshape reality. But the more she said it, the more her voice shook, and the more certain I became that she knew exactly how deep she was already sinking. When someone is innocent, they get angry first. Shocked, confused. They demand clarity. They ask, what are you talking about? But she knew. She jumped straight to pleading, like a woman who recognized the sound of a door closing behind her. I stepped back inside the house without answering her. She followed so close behind that I could feel her breath shaking against my shoulder. Please, she said again. Talk to me. Tell me what you heard. I didn't. I picked up my phone and placed it on the counter, screen down. Her eyes locked onto it like she expected it to burst into flames. "Who called you?" she asked. Not "what did they say?" Not "why are you acting like this?" Just that one question. Who? Because she already knew someone out there had the truth she thought she'd buried. I could see her mind racing, replaying every lie she'd told in the past months, every excuse she stretched too far, every moment she thought she had slipped unnoticed. She tried to move closer again, but I stepped away. She froze mid-step, like her legs didn't know what to do without my permission. "He shouldn't have come here," she whispered. It wasn't a confession, but it was close enough to one. I turned and looked at her, really looked at her. Her makeup was perfect, not a smudge out of place. Her hair was curled like she had prepared for something special, not a simple errand with a friend. Her perfume lingered in the air, not the subtle one she wore around me, but the expensive one she reserved for nights out. And her blouse, I recognized it. It was the one she wore to her cousin's engagement party, the night she said her stomach hurt and left early. It wasn't even subtle anymore. "Pack your bags," I said again, because I didn't trust myself to say anything else without the calm breaking. "Where would I go?" she asked, as if the world outside our house suddenly became foreign territory. "What do you expect me to do?" "That's not my problem," I said. "Not anymore." She pressed her palms together, as if she was praying for the first time in her life. "Please just talk to me. Tell me what you think you know." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked back to the window. The Lexus was still there, but now the passenger door was slightly open. A man stepped out, mid-40s maybe, dark hair, expensive jacket, the kind of posture that said he'd never been told no in his life. He stood beside the car, looking directly at our house like he owned the view, like he expected her to walk out at any moment. Claire saw him too. I heard her breath catch, a sharp, tight inhale. She grabbed my arm, not out of affection but sheer panic. "Don't go out there," she whispered. "Please, don't talk to him." I didn't move. "Why not?" I asked. She didn't have an answer. Not a real one. Just fear. Raw, exposed fear. She released my arm and stepped back, her hands trembling now. "He shouldn't be here," she repeated. Then, softer, "I told him not to come." The words hit like a heavy door closing. I turned toward her slowly. "You told him not to come here?" Her mouth opened but nothing came out. The silence that followed was worse than any admission. She ran a hand through her hair, pacing in small circles like a trapped animal trying to find an exit. "You don't understand," she said finally, voice cracking. "It's complicated. Complicated." That was the word people used when they wanted to justify something cruel in a way that made themselves sound like victims. I walked to the coat rack and took my jacket. She stepped in front of me, blocking the door, her chest rising and falling too fast. "Please," she begged. "If you talk to him, everything will get worse." "Why?" I asked. "What exactly is going to get worse?" She swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. "He'll twist things," she said. "He'll make it seem like, I don't know. He's manipulative. He lies." "Funny," I said. "That's exactly what he said about you." She froze, completely, like her bloodstream stopped. I hadn't planned to say that. It slipped out before I could stop it. But the effect was immediate. Her face collapsed. "You talked to him?" she whispered. "No," I said. "He talked to me." She staggered back as if someone pushed her. "What did he tell you?" "Enough." Her jaw clenched. Then she looked back toward the window, at the man standing beside the car. And in that moment, she wasn't just afraid of losing me. She was afraid of him. It wasn't the fear of a lover exposed. It was deeper, almost frantic. Like she knew the moment I stepped outside, I would learn something she'd never wanted me to know. "Please don't," she whispered again, tears spilling now. "Don't talk to him." I brushed past her hand and opened the door. The air outside was cooler than before, heavy with the kind of quiet that meant everything important was about to happen. She stayed inside, gripping the doorway like the house itself was holding her back. I stepped onto the porch and headed toward the man. He watched me approach without blinking, without shifting, like he'd been waiting for this moment all day. And as I closed the distance between us, I realized something that made my stomach tighten. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't ashamed. He wasn't even smug. He was calm, too calm, like he knew exactly why he was here and what he was about to tell me. He didn't move when I reached him, not a shift of his feet, not a twitch of his jaw. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at me like this was a scheduled appointment he had been preparing for. The man had one of those faces that made you immediately understand why people trusted him, or why people believed whatever version of the truth he chose to tell. Clean, confident, polished in a way that said he had money, influence, and absolutely zero fear of consequences. "So," he said, as if greeting an old acquaintance, "I guess she didn't tell you I'd be stopping by." His tone was casual, but there was a sharp edge buried under it, like a knife hidden beneath velvet. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to be the one who filled the silence. Let him talk. Let him reveal whatever he came here to reveal. He smirked slightly, glancing over my shoulder toward the house. Claire was standing half-hidden behind the curtain, watching with the kind of terror that made something inside me go colder. "She's probably freaking out right now," he said, almost proud of it. "She hates when things don't go her way." Again, I stayed silent. He tilted his head, studying me. "No questions?" he asked. "No shouting? No threats?" "You're calmer than she described." I didn't bite. I simply said, "Who are you?" He gave a small shrug. "Someone who's been honest with you from the start." The sentence hit me like a faint echo of the phone call. The voice wasn't identical, calmer now, lower, but the cadence was the same. The deliberate pauses. The way he clipped the ends of certain words. "You're the one who called me," I said. He smiled. Not a friendly smile. Not even a mocking one. Just a confirmation. I figured she wouldn't. My jaw tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "Why would you call me?" "Because," he said, stepping a little closer, "you deserve to know who you were married to." The implication hung between us like smoke. I didn't respond. He gestured toward the house with a tiny tilt of his chin. "She wasn't supposed to get you involved. That was the rule. But she's sloppy when she thinks she's in control. She forgets people notice things." I narrowed my eyes. "What rule?" His expression shifted, like he realized he'd said too much. For a second, only a second, irritation flickered across his face. Then he regained his smooth composure. "It doesn't matter now. She made choices, and once someone breaks the agreement, it stops being my problem." Agreement. Rule. My stomach tightened again, but I forced my expression to stay flat. He looked me over, taking my silence as an invitation to keep digging. "I warned her this would happen," he said. "I told her the moment she crossed the line, she'd lose everything." Inside the house, I could see movement. Claire pacing behind the curtain, torn between rushing outside to stop him and hiding where she thought she still had a chance to control the narrative. He leaned back against the car, arms folding casually. "She didn't tell you how we met, did she?" I said nothing. He smiled again. "She came to me first, not the other way around. She pretended she wanted something simple, something discreet. But she was never honest with either of us. She never is." The words hit somewhere deep, but I kept my tone calm. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," he said, "I don't like being lied to, and she lied to both of us in different ways." He pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and held it toward me. On the screen was a list of messages, long ones, from Claire. Not flirty, not romantic, no hearts or kisses. These weren't the messages of lovers. These were negotiations, demands, instructions, promises, threats, and then something else, screenshots she sent him. Legal documents, financial statements, notes about me, my schedule, my habits, my weaknesses, who I trusted, what I owned, what she believed she would get. My chest tightened. "What is this?" I asked. "Your wife," he said calmly, "is not who you think she is." He scrolled further, showing more messages. "She told me you were passive, easy to distract, easy to control. She said once you were out of the picture, everything would fall neatly into her hands. The world around me slowed. Not because of betrayal, I had already suspected the affair. But this was different. This wasn't romance. This wasn't two people sneaking around like teenagers. This had nothing to do with love. This was a plan, a structure, a blueprint, and Claire had been executing it step by step. "You're lying," I said quietly. "No," he replied. "I'm not. I have no reason to. She's the one who lied." He tapped his screen again before I could ask anything else. "The things she said about you, they were ugly. She doesn't respect you. She fears what she can't control. So she tried to eliminate the problem." That word, eliminate, landed with a cold, hollow thud. I stared at him, trying to read his expression. He looked back at me with honest, almost bored neutrality, like a man stating facts in a business meeting. Inside the house, I heard the faint sound of something falling. Maybe Claire had stumbled. Maybe she dropped something. Maybe she knew exactly what he was showing me. He pocketed his phone and leaned closer. "You can believe whatever you want," he said. "But if I were you, I wouldn't let her pack alone." I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not heartbreak, something colder, something precise. Because now I understood why he called, why he showed up, why he stood there with confidence instead of shame. This wasn't about him. It never had been. It was about her. And the one thing still missing, the thing she didn't know I had. I turned toward the house. He didn't stop me. He didn't say another word. He simply stepped back, watching, waiting, because the moment I walked through that door, everything would break open. For her. For me. For the life she thought she built behind my back. And she had no idea what I was about to reveal. When I stepped back into the house, the air felt different. Heavy. Charged. Like the moment before a storm finally breaks and the world has no choice but to face the impact. Claire was standing in the middle of the living room now, arms wrapped around herself, makeup starting to smear from the frantic pacing she had tried to hide. She looked at me as if I were carrying a verdict in my hands. Maybe I was. She rushed toward me the second the door closed. "What did he say? What lies did he tell you? You can't believe him, he twists everything." Her voice cracked, but it wasn't heartbreak. It was fear of losing control. Fear of losing the story she had rehearsed 100 times in her head. I set my jacket on the chair and didn't answer. She tried again, more desperate. "He's obsessed with me. You don't understand. He's dangerous. He wants to ruin our marriage." I almost laughed at the word our. She didn't notice. She kept talking, faster now, like she knew time was slipping through her fingers. "You have to listen to me. You have to believe me. Whatever he told you, he's exaggerating, twisting. You know how people are when—" "Stop," I said quietly. She froze mid-sentence like her voice shattered in her throat. For a moment, she looked like she might faint. "Claire," I said, "I saw the messages." The silence that followed wasn't silence, it was an implosion. I could see it in her eyes. Something inside her collapsed so hard it left nothing but bare truth. "Messages?" she whispered. "He showed you?" I nodded. Her hands started trembling visibly. Not tiny trembles. Full shaking, like someone dropped her into icy water. "He wasn't supposed to show you anything," she said, but then corrected herself, panic choking the words. "I mean, I can explain those. They're not what they look like." "They look like a plan," I said. "They look like instructions. They look like you weren't having an affair. You were organizing something." Her breath hitched. She took a step back. Then another. "You don't understand how he manipulates people," she said. "He made me write those things. He pressured me. He threatened me." "You offered him my financial documents," I said calmly, "and my schedules, and my information, and you told him what you thought I wouldn't fight for." She didn't deny it. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her throat worked, but the explanation she was scrambling for never appeared. "Claire," I said, "what did you promise him?" She shook her head violently. "Nothing. I didn't. It wasn't like that. I waited. She lifted a trembling hand to her mouth, as if she could physically push the truth back down. It was supposed to be simple, she whispered. I said nothing. She kept talking. He had connections. He said he could help me. He said he could make sure things went my way. I didn't think it would go this far. Go how far? She looked at me then, really looked at me, like she was seeing me not as her husband but as the final obstacle to the life she wanted. You have to believe me, she said. I never wanted to hurt you. I needed security. I needed a plan in case things fell apart. So you built one by tearing me down, I said. Her lip quivered. You started pulling away from me, she said. You were always tired, always at work, always distracted. I felt alone. I needed someone who could protect me. By eliminating me? She flinched like the word hit her physically. No, she whispered. It wasn't like that. I just needed leverage. Just enough to make sure I was safe. He said if anything ever happened, if we separated, I'd come out on top. And the documents? He said they were just in case. Nothing was ever going to happen, she said. I didn't think you'd ever know. Every sentence made the picture sharper. She hadn't been cheating for love. She wasn't risking anything for passion or excitement. She had been preparing, positioning, calculating. She didn't want a lover. She wanted an exit strategy. Claire, I said quietly, pack your bags. Tears streaked her cheeks now, but they weren't remorseful tears. They were the tears of someone watching the blueprint collapse. Please, she said, reaching for me. I stepped back. She froze. You can't just throw me out, she whispered. I can, I said. And I already did. She tried a different tactic, one she hadn't used in years. Her voice softened, sweetened at the edges. Manipulation disguised as affection. We can fix this, she said. We can talk. I'll delete everything. I'll cut him off. We can. I already saved the files, I said. Her mouth fell open. What? A month ago, I added. Before the call today. Before I knew who he was. Before the Lexus ever parked outside. She stared at me like I had just rewritten the universe. How did you? You're not as subtle as you think you are. She blinked fast. So, you knew. I suspected. And I recorded. And now I know. Her face crumpled. She stumbled toward the staircase, toward the bedroom, toward the bag I threw on the bed earlier. Every step looked like her bones were turning to dust inside her body. I followed but didn't speak. She packed in silence, frantic, uneven, grabbing things at random. Between folded clothes, she kept glancing at me, waiting for some sign of forgiveness, some sign she still had power. I gave her none. When she zipped the bag, she hesitated at the top of the stairs. Where will I go? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. That's your problem, I said. Not mine. She closed her eyes, then walked past me, suitcase wheels thumping against each stair. At the door, she paused, waiting for me to stop her. I didn't. Not a word. Not a motion. Just silence. The same silence she used against me for months. The silence she relied on to hide her plans. Now it was hers to carry. She stepped outside. The man in the Lexus didn't move. He didn't help her. He didn't look at her. She wasn't his partner anymore. She was a liability. She walked past him without a word, without a goodbye, without a final lie. I closed the door behind her and locked it. And for the first time in months, the house felt like mine again. The air felt clean. The world felt honest. I picked up my phone, replayed the recording, the one she didn't know I had, and saved it to 3 separate drives. Insurance. Closure. Proof. Then I sat down at the kitchen table, exhaled, and finally let the truth settle. She thought I would break. She thought I would crumble. She thought I would scream, chase, beg, cry. She never expected calm. She never expected silence. She never expected me to walk away stronger than she did. If you want more true, raw stories like this, make sure you subscribe, because some endings aren't loud. Some endings are quiet victories.